At any rate, this has been only a brief glimpse at the documentary hypothesis. For people who want to know more, I would strongly suggest that you pick up a copy of Richard Elliott Friedman's Who Wrote the Bible. It's been around 15 or 20 years now, and as far as I'm concerned, it's still by far the best thing ever written about the documentary hypothesis. It's received a lot of praise over the years, and rightly so. Freeman, as far as I'm concerned, is the scholar of our age when it comes to the Bible. There's just nobody better than him. And he's also a very fair writer and complimentary to Jews and Christians both. Now, if we were to take the very old and outdated notion of Moses having written the Torah, which almost nobody believes anymore, then the idea of different writers with different points of view concerning the Old Testament events having their writings later interwoven by a redactor would be without merit. However, we know that Moses didn't write all of the Torah, if much at all. I gave several reasons for this in my two-part video on fundamentalism. One of the reasons I mentioned in it was that there were several kings and kingdoms that are talked about throughout the Torah that didn't exist until well after Moses was dead. Someone recently asked me for details on that. Well, Genesis 11:31 describes Abraham as living in Ur of the Chaldeans, but the Chaldeans did not exist at the time of Abraham. There are 8 Edomite kings listed toward the end of Genesis 26. All of them lived between 1152 and 995 BC, hundreds of years after Moses was dead. Some of them are actually mentioned again later in the Bible during the reigns of David and Solomon. And they're also mentioned by people groups outside of Israel, so it's well corroborated. The documentary hypothesis makes sense of things like, the doublets and triplets, along with the many discrepancies within the Old Testament that never made sense before. Like I said, almost every major theologian in the world accepts some form of the hypothesis. Even the Vatican estimates that probably 90% of them do. The hypothesis is as well accepted among theologians as the theory of relativity is among cosmologists. In closing, I'd just like to say that if we tried to make the Bible out to be the very words of God, something that represents his very thoughts, we're going to be very disappointed at times at its clumsiness and its inherent contradictions and discrepancies. But when we come to realize that it's a collection of books that simply gets the gist of things, we actually come much closer to whatever truths are to be found in it. Does it really matter if Noah sent out a raven or a dove? He sent out a bird. Does it matter if man was made before or after the animals, or before or after the shrubs, or if woman was made at the same time or a little later? God created everything. And that's all it's really trying to say. I'd like to leave you with a saying from George MacDonald. It's mostly about science, but I think you can see how it works into this. He said, "The appearances of nature are the truths of nature, far deeper than any scientific discoveries in and concerning them. For their show is the face of far deeper things. It is through their show, not through their analysis, that we enter into the deepest truths. To know a primrose is a higher thing than to know all the botany of it, just as to know Christ is an infinitely higher thing than to know all theology, all that is said about his person or babbled about his work. The body of man does not exist for the sake of its hidden secrets. Its hidden secrets exist for the sake of its outside, for the face and the form in which dwells revelation. Its outside is the deepest of it." And something else he once said, "We must not wonder things away into non-entity." I agree so much with MacDonald here. When we look at the Bible like this, when we just try to get the gist of things, that's when we actually get the big picture. When we try to tear it all apart and get into little details and things, first of all, there's going to be discrepancies in those details. And secondly, those details aren't nearly as important as the big picture. And I see so many people that are so wrapped up in the little details that they miss the big picture. I hope this video has been instructive, and I'll talk to you later.